Hi, friends. We are going to do a review of Tarot Neocolonial de las Americas by Patrick McGrath Muñez, one of the most fascinating, interesting, cool decks I've ever seen. And I learned about this deck, which was not on my radar, when I watched one of Auntie Kay's videos, and she talked about how kind of amazing this deck was. And I thought, how the hell have I not heard about this? So I looked it up and got it was on sale. So it was kind of perfect timing. And I think it is freaking fascinating. Many of you, I think, are not going to like it. And that's up to you. But I mean, this is, I would say this is a theme deck, but a successful one. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know, theme decks are not always my favorite because I think sometimes the theme and the tarot get diminished by the theme and tarot being paired. And then there are other ones where I think they're both elevated by being paired. And I think the Dark Goddess Tarot is an example of a deck that is a theme deck that that elevates tarot and the goddess items. The goddesses in the deck, I think, are elevated by being paired together. I think this is in that vein. There are others that I think are exceptionally good, and then many others that I think just fall down and feel sort of just commercial to me. But this is not an unsuccessful one in my humble estimation. I'm actually astonished that US Games published this because it is so blatantly political, which they cannot be fussed about lately. Dear God. Anyway, this does not only it not only doesn't avoid politics, it embraces and discusses them full on. And as such, I think maybe one reason why people won't necessarily resonate with it or find it difficult to read with. Now, I have done some readings with this, just, not client readings yet, but I have done some readings with it, and it does tend to go to a very, what's the word I want to reach for here? It goes to a sort of unvarnished, unsugar-coated place. And I can see it not necessarily being the ideal general reader. At the same time, I can't tell you how cool it is. This book, which is slim, it is a slim, slender book. It is one of the best books I have read accompanying a tarot deck, and maybe even one of the best books I've read about tarot. I like to consider myself a very seasoned reader. I think of myself as a well-read reader. I've been doing it for a long time. And I have come to a point where I don't read a lot of tarot books lately because there's very little anyone can say about a card that I don't already know, except this is one of those. Now, that's not bragging. I just used to read a lot of tarot books. I think that every time I picked up this book, to spend time with it, I learned or discovered or experienced a new thing about the card. I found a new layer in it. I'm gonna read the Empress to you, just to give you an example. So the Empress represents abundance and good nourishment. The Archduchess Maria Theresa of Austria, Holy Roman Empress, is the figure that inspired the image for this card. Maria Theresa was known for her economic and educational reforms. She was also considered one of the most capable rulers that brought unity to her empire, and perhaps the most humane of all the Habsburgs. She was also the only female ruler in the 650-year history of the Habsburg dynasty. The Empress is shown holding an ice cream cone while petting a calf. The cow is traditionally associated with feminine lunar deities, nutrition, and the reproductive power of the earth. The Empress, like Mother Earth, is the fruitful matriarch that sustains, making her not just desirable, but also potentially terrible for her power to give and also to take away. On the back of her throne, golden arches that seem familiar to our current consumer culture stand for the letter M for mater, mother, mère, madre. with the inclusion of a hamburger, a large vase with fruit, and some leaves. This card is driven by comfort and the pleasure principle. Therefore, there is always the possibility of overindulgence. The Empress invites us to step into fertile ground, be open to change, growth, and to enjoy the beautiful things in life. She may also become a muse and inspire us to be creative and deeply intuitive. This is a woman in the highest position of power. Additionally, she can also be a mother figure who can inspire love and devotion, but also fear and intimidation. And what I think Patrick McGrath Muñiz does so brilliantly in this book is he serves up a lot of dark stuff. And then he will also interpret it in a slightly less dark way. And in that way, I think the book is very valuable just in experiencing the cards. I'll probably read you a couple other descriptions or highlights from a couple other descriptions, but I could easily read you the whole book just to get you to want to buy this, and I don't want to do that for several reasons, intellectual property, but also I think there's something just really magical about discovering good writing, good tarot writing, and this is good tarot writing, and it so fits with its deck, but also just leaves a lot of space to read it. I don't think, for me personally, decks don't tend to have personalities. They don't tend to push me one way or the other, and I will also say that one thing that I do frequently as a reader is reach for decks that are fairly neutral so that they don't do that, so that I can let the cards kind of guide me, whether the reading is light, shadow, positive, negative, whether it's going to be a success or not, all of that stuff. This is not a neutral deck, and I think that in that regard, it is not one that I would necessarily reach for as a general. Like, I probably wouldn't bring this to the market to read with. You know what I mean? But I would. And it reminds me a lot of the Next World Tarot, too, in its sort of unflinching desire to look at the world the way it is, and to look, I think in this particular case, history the way it is. You know, and there's a lot that can be said about tarot as a structure, as a, you know, in a way, sort of an institution, as a reflection of white European Christianity. As someone who grew up in white European Christianity and who has been negatively impacted by it, there's a lot of reclaiming that I do in working with tarot. But there's also the reality that kind of energy, impulse, those things are alive and well and working on us in the world today. You know, and so I don't need the Hierophant revised out of the deck, because the Hierophant is alive and well and living in modern life and will impact us at work, in our home life, in politics. There are going to be leaders who are completely out of touch with what people actually do and need out of life, and base their decisions purely on ideology, right? So that's how I've learned to work with the deck. This deck comes along and sort of takes that and runs with it in a very different way. Now, I'm going to do a walkthrough of this deck, but there's a lot to say about it that I can't really fit in a review video. Like, each card is so meticulously thought out and Patrick Muñiz manages to write a book that is so slim but is so impactful. Every card has someone who's really well thought out on it. Now, I wanted to grab another deck too. Can I reach it from here? Hold on one sec. I should have thought this through. I can't find it quickly. There is you can't even hear me probably. Oh, no, that's not it. Here. Oops. God, I'm such a mess. Anyway, here. So it reminds me stylistically of this deck, the Tarot Madoni. And I don't know if Patrick saw it and was influenced by it at all, but it artistically and stylistically gives a similar vibe in its style, which I really quite like. I love this deck. I don't work with it much. It's in essence, it's just like the minors are cool, but a little dull. You know what I mean? Like, it's the majors and the courts that really are successful for me. this is the classic, to me, example of, like, you can work with a deck that's just index cards with a number and a title on them, but why would you want to? But this stylistic feels like like inspired by this, and that to me is sort of chef's kiss. I love this papest. So I'm gonna read this to you as I promised. I will just read a couple. Again, I won't read the whole thing. On this card, we see the image of an Afro-Caribbean priestess holding up an open book while sitting on a chair with two palm-like pillars. The coastal scene in the background reflects the dual nature of earth-water of this card. The images in her book show an Ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol of life, and Our Lady of Montserrat, a seated Black Madonna and child. These images speak of life and life-giving potential, transcending time and culture. Now, this is a much more generous reading of the papist than I tend to give her, which is, me being problematic. Now, he goes into a lot of detail about the details on the card, which, again, love that. The High Priestess, the Popess is the High Priestess in most tarot decks. In either case, she holds great spiritual wisdom that is also tied to Jung's anima, the feminine aspect of man, transcending the psyche. Behind her, hanging cloth with the moon and stars symbolizes power and dreams. She encourages us to follow our interior voice. We should put our devices down for a moment and be free from distractions. We should be warned not to get carried away with fantasizing or daydreaming. The time to meditate and listen to your soul in silence. The Popess offers us her secret lunar mystery and maternal wisdom. She also invites us to appreciate what we have, our past experiences, lessons, and to be thankful for people in our lives. She teaches us to be patient, tolerant, and silent when we need to be silent. On the other hand, she must be careful not to remain... Oh my God. I just can't. She must be... I'm just leaving this stuff in because this is me. This is who I am. On the other hand, we must be careful not to remain too passive. Reflect on past mistakes, learn your lessons, and move on. Like a voodoo queen, she invites us to heal ourselves. Listen to your guiding spirits and look deep within yourself to find the answers you're searching for. So again, just very, very clever, smart. And then, I read the Empress already. The Empress, becomes Columbus, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's, oh no, I'm sorry. It's Charles V. It's just very, 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 very clever and dark, I would say, in the sense of like what a lot of this is. If you look at it at face value, and if you don't read the book and you work with just the images, it's a somewhat really negative deck. Here's the Pope, holding a satellite dish with one hand while blessing two supplicants. The Pope sits firmly in the middle as a mediator, not just between heaven and earth, but between past and present. The familiar-looking supplicants represent the rich, those in power and corporations. They take inspiration from the first national corporation in history, the Catholic Church. Come the fuck on. That's, how long have we been saying shit like that? It's the first business, multinational corporation. Just fucking brilliant. But the images can be a little dark. This in particular, this one too, and what I think it does and why I enjoy that about this is that, again, I say all the time, the cards don't mean anything, until they come into context. Now, the overt context of many decks is fairly neutral. The overt context of this deck is again, it's a deck exploring colonialism. And so it does have a much darker, overt quality, but he as a writer, as an examiner, explorer of tarot, will also sort of turn the tables and say, okay, you can also read it this way. So I just think it's very, very clever. And again, it's weird, it's rare, but a lot of the brilliance is highlighted in the book. The artwork on its own, I think, is stunning. It feels vintage. It feels fresh at the same time. It's just gorgeous work. And it's very specific. And it's a Waite Smith deck, or inspired. So it's not, though the Tarot Madoni is pippish, or, fully, not even pippish, it's sort of not even pips. This is inspired by Waite Smith. So, sorry, just replying to my partner. So here we are in the suits. So we're in wands. This may be Columbus. Anyway, Columbus is one of the cards, which is, I mean, this is sort of always the sort of quintessentially colonial card anyway. And this is kind of heartbreaking as the three, like, it just takes, this is a migrant and a migrant child, and then there's like border walls, and I mean, it's not a neutral deck. It's not. And, you know, I can't pretend, like, this is Roosevelt and his Rough Riders. Like, but, can you read with it? I think yes. You know what I mean? This is the meanest Eight of Swords I've ever seen. It's a eulogy. I think in many ways this deck is a eulogy. For the cultures that colonization destroyed, for the planet. I think this is stunning. And at the same time, I think, I'll do a sample reading for you. I also have to say I love the shape. Now, it's really hard for me to shuffle because it's so long, but I just love that sort of long, slender shape. It's very, very cool. All the court cards are very, very, royal. They're real royals. And this one is Frida Kahlo, and I can't remember the other artist because I am fucking awful with names. Let me get back to Cups. That's the Two of Cups. Oh, Diego Rivera. Beautiful. I just think it's gorgeous. And he does just such a beautiful job of sort of like saying, yep, this is depicting something horrible, and here's also how you can... I think it's exceptionally good. I think it's smart, it's witty, it's funny, it's beautifully designed, it's beautifully written, it's so intelligent, very fucked up in some ways like this. And at the same time, just very, very cool. And it dances a line that I think life dances of sort of difficult stuff. This is Queen Isabella, I think. And that's King Henry VIII? I can't remember all. It's they're all there in the book. Some of them you can tell very clearly, some can't. This says enjoy colonialism in the back on the Coca-Cola sign on the Two of Swords. It's just, I'm gonna read this one to you too, because again, I don't know. Two of Swords. Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés meets the Aztec Emperor Montezuma in La Malinche stands in the middle as the intermediary, advisor, and interpreter. Malinche was an indigenous freed slave who became Cortez's lover and played a key role in the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. It's like bringing history and complications to the table, and doing so very cleverly. It's also anachronistic, which to me is a thing that I enjoy. I mean, you can see sort of the American flag there with the gas pump on it. I think the book speaks for itself. I think that's one reason why I'm having a hard time talking about it beyond just sort of picking up the book to read you parts of it, because I think the book just really sort of does such a good job explaining it. And I just think it's so cool. I know that sounds ungenuine when I say that, because I am not cool. And so saying things like, that's cool, sounds not cool, but there we have it. So now we're in coins. This is a really fabulous Five of Coins, I think. The detail on the coins, too, it's just very cool. I think the thing about... Some people will say, I can't read with this because it's so political or it's so this. You're going to get readings that I think are going to speak about that stuff more, but I also think, remember that tarot is a metaphor for an experience. And so if you're exploring a card that has an experience of land theft or of consumerism, what does that metaphor tell you about the situation you're reading about? You know what I mean? So if consumerism is a thing that you're seeing in the reading, what does that tell you about what the querent is dealing with in life? Is it their consumerism, or are they being consumed? Are they giving too much of themselves away, for example? You know, or are they commodifying themselves? Are they commodifying their spirituality? This card is so fascinating to me because this represents Andrew Jackson, who is one of the most heinous people in history. And the author, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but made a very clear, made a very interesting depiction of Andrew Jackson as being kind of hot in this card, which I think kind of sums up the reality of our history, is that, you know, there's an allure to these awful things, which is why they get done. So just little interesting touches like that. Maybe he didn't mean for Andrew Jackson to look... He wasn't hot in real life, or at least based on the paintings we have, but that Andrew Jackson looks kind of sexy, and that makes me feel complicit, and that's kind of an interesting thing, right? So you can see I have small hands. It's a little bit of a struggle. I have to really bend them to riffle, but I can do it, you know. Traditionally good U.S. Games cardstock. Please God, hope that if they do publish more, they don't go with that shitty cardstock they used for the Zodiac Tarot, which I just really hate, although I like that deck. The back looks like American money, which is very cheeky. He didn't intend this to be a published deck, he says in the guidebook, and then it just sort of happened. And they do this for some reason with some art decks, like the Japaridza, which weirdly is another deck that I quite love. And use a lot. It's one that's kind of always out on my table. So they will kind of take on an art deck, but never, I don't think, ever anything so specifically political. And frankly, for them, representational. All right, I'm just going to pull a spread here so you can see. So there's the page of coins. That's the 4 of swords. I'm going to have to... Can I zoom out more? Yoink. Oh, the chaos. Oh, the chaos, friends. It's not good. I probably should have done my little archy one here. So we start with the page of swords. The page of coins, or gold, really. Isn't Oros, isn't that gold? Maybe it's not. Maybe that does mean coins. So, you know, we're sort of in search of the you know, you could call it in search of, you know, we're going in search of money. And then we jump to the 4 of swords. And you can work with the imagery, and you can not, you know what I mean? So 4s are very stable, very stagnant, conservative even. And so you're trying to sort of be on the hunt for, or not hunt, but you're like, how am I going to go out and make my life? How am I going to go out and make my career? But you're actually thinking very closed-mindedly about it. You know, so you could start there. And then this card features St. Francis of Assisi and, God, why am I so awful at names? I remember St. Francis because I grew up Catholic and he was the fucking, you know, most, I think, like, tolerable of the saints that I knew. 10 of coins. No, I'm looking for the 10 of cups. Oh, that's the 10 of cups. Why am I thinking? I'm just very, very dumb today. Cups. You know, I know people are watching this and they know exactly who that is, and they're going to be like, hey, idiot, it's this. And I'm going to be like, yup. Oh, Kateri Tekakwitha. And St. Francis of Assisi, under a rainbow of 10 of cups. They are both known for their love of animals. But that doesn't contextually make sense in this reading, right? Starting out. So what I get is like the 10 of cups, like you're spending all your emotional energy, right? On this sort of journey into poverty that you're taking. You know, again, like, so I think, you know, again, you don't have to only read with the more political elements of this, but they are going to come out more. In fact, the way I started talking about money right away kind of presented it with a negative tone. But anyway, I think it's just really cool. I don't know how to define it, and that's good, right? I don't know how to categorize it, and I think it defies categorization. And in that way, again, when I see new tarot decks, what interests me are things that are different and special, and this is definitely that. So I think really amazing. Tarot Neocolonial. I keep wanting to call it neoclassical. Tarot Neocolonial de las Americas by Patrick McGrath Muñez, and cool. And check out. I'm going to put Auntie Kay's video in the link below so you can hear her talk about it. Take care. Be good. Talk soon.